going to talk about all the new things. First of all, thank you very much for coming here and attending this meeting. And I would like to thank the organization for making this event possible. I'm going to speak about the background, and I'm going to tell you about the origins of this gvSIG thing. We are offering in the association consulting services for nodes and spatial data infrastructures, all the knowledge that we acquire based on our work, like PDV, SAEMT, WPS, and so on, took us to a point in which we thought we should have a platform in order to include all this knowledge regarding the infrastructures or special infrastructures. What is gvSIG Online? gvSIG Online is a service for the integration of IDE technologies in open software for the management of geographical information within an organization, so that the organization can manage its own information in a simple and homogeneous way, and in order that they don't need a very high level of SIG knowledge. Which is the objective? Well, the aim is the creation of nodes in order to best manage the geographical information in an organization. We want to do that with the maximum level of guarantee and without limitations. And this is possible as far as this is open software that provides the customer with a guarantee and also with rights. We also want this to be 100% interoperable. We are speaking about spatial data. Then we know that interoperability is an issue, so that the geographical information is open to an organization and to the general public. It is also very important that this is scalable and adaptable to the needs of a customer, and this should be adapted to the needs of the customer. Not all customer may have a single product in order to solve their needs. So this should be adapted to the customer, and the customer doesn't have to be adapted to our technology. So one of the aims of this is the sustainability of the gvSIG project. Which are the features of gvSIG Online? We want to provide an integral solution. We will have a database, geoportal, the customers with SIG desktop, mobile applications, and this is focusing on providing services that meet the customer needs. So it's not oriented towards a product that this is what you have, and well, if it suits you, that's okay, and if not, just look somewhere else. No, this is not our approach, and we adapt this to the customer needs. And we use GeoServer, we use Porges, we use Apache, we use Tonga, we use other open software technology that are there for years and which are very interesting. So this is open software and mature technologies. We are also based in standards. It's not a solution for the geospatial information management, where the standard is going to be a main component. We will avoid specific protocols for a given solution, and we'll try to use standards. So we'll have a mobile application, we'll have a gvSIG connected to standards, and we will have the web application. Another feature, and this is one of the requirements, it should be fast, simple, and with an attractive design. This service goes beyond the typical GIS technician that knows technology with the systems for geographical information. This is a solution both for the citizens because we are speaking about making this available to the citizens and also for technicians because this can be a technician from a municipality and he doesn't have to have all this GIS knowledge. They have to be rapid, quick. If not, it's not going to be successful. And as we mentioned, that this is adapted to the customer, this is going to be modular. This is another requirement. We are going to have different modules and a base platform where, depending on the requirements of the customer, we will add different modules. Also, it, it's not going to have any restriction because there are other solutions which are similar and based on the number of users, based on the number of downloads, or depending on the layer number, the conditions change. Here, the only limitation will be the hardware that the customer has. And after, I'll show you an example of this. Regarding the features, it is thought so that some organizations adapt themselves to legislations that dictate that the spatial information should be public, like Inspire, the directive Inspire, or the gvSIG bill. And how do you install this? Well, there are two options. Either we install that on the servers indicated by the customer, or we can offer them the hosting service, and we would be in charge of having the servers, maintenance, recovering the system, making backup copies, etc. These two approaches are based on the fact that some customers will want this system in their infrastructures. So then we go there, we install that, and we train their staff. Other customers, either they do not have a specialist personnel, or directly they do not want to have this overload of work, or they have other requirements. They say, I want a relay web. I want to have this in the cloud. I pay for the service, and I forget about any information technology problems. So then we have two different solutions. License, we install or deploy infrastructure for spatial data. We are going to use different technologies. They have the respective licenses. We provide this with as open software to AGPL. For the environment in which the software is being run in a server. So basically, is this regarding the technical part, which are the components of gvSIG online. We have a base architecture which is made of a geospatial database. We also use open LDAP. We have a layer of services where we have the map layer, the geographical objects layer, etc., and gvSIG Online, which is going to be the web component of all this infrastructure. So therefore, we'll have a part of the GeoPortal, which will be the visible interface, optionally, because we will have different modules. We will have mobile applications which are integrated into this architecture catalog. After we will see GeoNetwork or a gvSIG desktop, and also the developments of gvSIG which are required eventually. And we are going to see a couple of videos so that you see what I mean. Here we have displayed a demo page that we have in the association. And as you see, we have a web page which is the homepage of gvSIG based on the components that we have. We'll have more items here. We see that we have a public display. We have mapping services. We have a catalog of metadata, and we can explore incidences. For instance, regarding services, we are speaking about spatial data infrastructures. Here we have a link with all the services web interoperable which are offered in the platform. We'll see that we have the concept of workspaces. In our platform, we can have several sets of services because perhaps we want services for cadastre, for the environment, and specific tools for the different areas. Again, we have the concept of everything full of buttons and I can do everything, or I'm going to separate it and I'm going to do user-friendly software with the specific mapping. We are speaking about organizations such as, for instance, a municipality where they will have the mapping, the specific mapping of a specific issue, and they will not need any addition tools for the cadastre. For instance, so the public meter, you will connect and will have different applications, each one with the information and the respective tools. Here we have a geoportal, the technologies. Well, we have avoided the part that was giving problems with mobile devices, and now we have these technologies which are not dependent from the device, and you can display this. Here we have the different layers. We have external layers. We have seen that you can put opacity here, and here we have the layers that we have in our infrastructure. What else do we have? The basic functionalities. We are going to see information associated to geometries. This is the typical information. You see information of the two layers, which is a road map and a map showing interest sites. And we wanted to maximize the map that is clean, as little buttons as possible, not too much buttons. And I mentioned this has a public side that will be defined later, but you can also get into this with a login name and password, and you can do some things when you are registered that you cannot do in the public. When I'm logged in and I'm registered, then I see that I have operations that weren't present before. For instance, we have the attributes table. Here we have an attributes table, and these restrictions can be included or not depending on the need. Here we have a quick search, and it can search in all the fields, and we can also select the register, and we have some function in the map. Let's continue. Other options that we have, the typical one, measuring distances and areas. This is a typical generating a map. In this case, what we are exporting is a PDF file based on the customer. They will want to include their logotypes, any other information. That's a PDF that we can download now. And this is another functionality, which is 3G. I'm going to introduce that here in another video so that you see what this is. Here we have a view as an orthophoto image. We select 3D. The controls that we do not have for 3D are deactivated, disabled. And here we have a 3D display included in the GeoPortal. Here we use the Cesio technology, and by default we use what the servers that they have, but the digital model of the field can be also included using this 3D Cesio technology. Here we have the tool to go again towards the north, and I continue with more utilities. And here we have the gvSIG. This is the Institute of Spanish Heritage, or the Spanish Heritage Institute. And we're going to see a couple of utilities. The first one is being able to visualize a layer based on a time parameter. We can search with coordinates, or we can use an address. Here we use nominative that has is based in OpenStreetMap, and the server can we can use services which are in the network, or the nominating server can be included in the customer facility, which would be the better option, in fact, in order to have a very good control and availability of the service. And I was talking about displaying a layer based on time. This has a time parameter, so it allows me to show the date in which I want to display the information. This is the temperature, and here we see where are the highest temperatures, and that's almost all. I'm going to continue. Let's see. We still have some time left. 13 minutes. For this 13 minutes, for the following one. So, did you finish the first one? No. For the first, you have 13 minutes. This is a complete example with gvSIG, where we are going to create a layer in the geospatial database. We are going to use gvSIG Online. With gvSIG, we create the view. We load a save file. We change the symbols. And here you see this detail. After changing the symbols, we are going to put that in red with 3 pixels thickness, and we will save this in a legend or captions file. And this file is going to be used online. The following step is exporting to the QGIS database, and then we export geometry. And then we are going to see the administration side. We will be the administrators of the system. And based on this tag, we are going to configure a gvSIG on a line.
The concept is the following. What we're going to have users in groups. We're going to have this concept of an application, which is a map, plus some tools, plus some information layers. We're going to have the part of service. Between these services, what we're going to have? Workspaces representing a set of services. For spatial infrastructures, we'll have resources, which are databases or raster images. We're going to, on the other hand, have something related to symbology to be able to modify things, and also, depending on each of the modules which we're installing, the specific setup will appear for each one. If we carry on, we're going to create a group and we're going to create a user. These registered users are the users who, after we will see within a mobile application, they register to have access in order to use the app. It's another concept for user concept. Here we create a group, right? I've got it here now created. And we create a user. Can you see? We put the email, we put the name, we put the password, and we assign to the group, which previously we've created, which would be, for, in this case, jornadas. Now, after creating the users, I'm going to go to the infrastructure part, the spatial infrastructures, to create a workspace where I can create these services, WMS, etc. In this case, with the example which we're going to do with the PORGES layer, which we have exported. These are the concept, workspace, which will be this set of services, which are the resources, groups of layers, and layers. For example, here, when I put the name, we create the space jornadas, we can see that everything is starting to be filled in of all the URLs of maps, etc. So I save the workspace, and then I'm going to the data storage, and I'm going to create a store for created linked to the PORGES database, which we have in the spatial infrastructure. I select the workspace, I select the type of GIS. Once we have actually configured this, when we're going to create a layer, all the resources which are associated to this database will come up, will appear. We give it a name, we give it a description. All of this is the first implementation, but we're hoping to improve the interface so it'll be a lot easier in the future. Right, group layers. We're going to create a group layer where we will place all of the layers, which after we'll be able to see in the table of contents, which will appear. So I save this, the layers, and then I go to the layers section and I add layer. Here I've got the state of all the layers. I can take a look at all the properties. I select data store, which ours is called jornadas, and at the moment all the resources are going to be which I have. Well, it was called AutoBS. That was the name of the layer. I give a title to this, and we've got a certain amount of styles. This is the first implementation where all the styles will appear, and then afterwards we're going to see how to use them. The idea is that if by default we create a style, then if somebody can then be able to edit and to create expressions or graphs. I'm going to say it can be consulted. It's not visible initially, and here we're going to place the permits. In permits, or licenses, we've simplified either you've got reading or writing license. So we're going to give permission to read and write for the group called Jornadas. Now we're taking safety, security will be handled here in this section. Depending on the permits, licenses which a layer has, and the group to which it belongs, I could do certain operations, or I could do some operations or other operations. So now what are we going to do? We're going to create a specific application, specific app, in this case, for this workspace we have created. We say, well, the idea is to create a map. We're going to say, decide a geographic area and the level of viewing, of zooming, which will be done in, as I'm showing now, but I'm going to move forward. And, right, I think I've gone back, have I? Yeah. And I create the app. Here, what's interesting when you create the app is I'm going to indicate a map, a location with a zoom. I'm going to select an icon which will distinguish it from the rest of the apps, and I'm going to assign which groups of users are going to be able to access to this app and which groups of layers this application has. You have 5 minutes left. Okay, thank you. Right, I move forward. Another things we have is to figure the talk, to define the order and external layers. We can put resources from other spatial data infrastructures. Right, so now we've created everything here, and what we now need to do would be to connect to the user who we have created, and then it will see our new application appears here, and if we load it, it will appear. The group we've created will appear, the external layers, and the layer that we have created. It's got this symbology here, which it had initially. I've got another video where we actually change it in the Geo portal. Here, something which is important here is how my user has permissions for writing in this layer. I have the tools for editing, which are associated to this layer, to change the geometry or the alphanumeric information. And the final part, the final video on symbology I wanted to show you. Can you see the initial symbology we have here? And what we're going to do now is to import the SLV, which were generated using gvSIG. We have all these different styles here. We have the option to edit SLD. We can edit and create SLD. We have the option to load an external file, which gvSIG uses to import colors. For example, if we're using a raster, we can import all of this, which will be generated by the SLD. And here, what I wanted to say was, we're going to get the SLD, which has been generated. We're going to put it into a red color, I think. I'm sorry. We're going to give it a name. We're going to upload the style, and here we're going now to the layer, and we're going to change the style. Go to the layer. Here we can find the one we want, which is called out of ears in this case. And in style, we're going to select the last one, which we have here, with the last one here, which is roads. Okay. I save it, and the result now is I'm doing this just so you can see. Now, here it is. It's appeared with the style which we defined in the SLD. Let's go back to the presentation now. Right, future models. These next models are functionalities which we're developing in projects at the moment, or we've been asked for proposals. But most certain is that we're going to have to do this because we've got a lot of demand for this. One would to edit the layers with mobile app. Another would be editing the symbology, advanced editing, which I couldn't show you today. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to show you how, where we are. Integration with the GeoNetwork catalog and integration with Alfresco in order to have the component of document manager related to the spatial element. And finally, we have node clusters. If we have some requirements for high availability, for example, and high performance, then we can provide a solution. Another of the questions which you'll say is, how do we obtain gvSIG online? Well, very simply is to contact with the association, get in contact with the association. What we have some distributors, some companies who implement these systems online. For example, here in the region of Valencia, we have Alphatec, who would be the company which provided this service. In Mexico, we have GeoAlternativa. In Peru, we have Ideas G. And there are others who will come. Perhaps we're talking with Giuliano Romanto, our friend, and possibly in Italy it will be done through our colleague. There's some projects which we're working on and where gvSIG has been in the International Union of Conservation and Nature Conservation, the Secretary for Mexico Tourism, SECTUR, the Institute for Cultural Heritage in Spain, which you see in the video, and the Agency for Regional Development in Larnaca in Cyprus, which is the speech which I'm going to give in a few minutes. No, right, well, I think you should begin now then. Okay, thank you.